Hello, I'm Chris C., the founding director of the Cardstack project, coming to you from the land of the Web3. Today, I'm joined by Calder's founder, Gökçe, who's going to talk about brand loyalty in Web3 using Web3 Stack to rethink marketing brand relationship and most importantly, having an intimate and growing relationship with customers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here. And I've always been a follower of Cardstack's podcast. So excited to deep dive into brand loyalty, marketing, and the future of brands 3.0.
Absolutely. I think when we talk about Web3 marketing, a lot of people think about like shilling or like talking about the future possibility. But marketing in the traditional world is really a kind of a science, and not in science about data, about engagement, about deepening that relationship. What makes you kind of bring those two fields together, right? Like true marketing in the digital marketing, maybe even brand marketing sense, and the two set, the emerging and refining two set of Web3. What brings you to that intersection?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're spot on that marketing has always been one way, but has been data driven about how do you bring and upsell from the journey of the starting point of the customer through the different intersections and different engagement rails. And when it comes to my story, I have always been in the intersection of brands, marketing, and engineering. I have what I call a day job and a night job. And my day job has always been crypto engineering. And I started in 2017 and 18 era and went down in the rabbit hole in crypto. And back then it was only layer ones and wallets. So at Cello, I was part of the early stage organization and the foundation that worked on the wallet before pre-mainnet times, and was able to see how we need to build a consumer facing right applications to bring next billion people on chain. And then I hacked on different DeFi and like NFT projects back in 2019 with like blockchain at Berkeley, jumped into Robinhood Crypto's early like crypto team. And lastly, and most importantly, these two worlds collided when I joined OpenSea, and I was part of the early product and design team, seeing how consumers, brands, and enterprises started to engage directly by passing middlemen like Instagram or like Amazon, and start to own data and engagement with their community. And what I say, my night job was always about fashion, brands, and marketing. I have a sister who has been collecting Vogues since I'm 7, and I think that was a pivotal time for me, where I actually had a time in my life where I studied for a year in like St. Martin's and did fashion and engagement and marketing, and seeing the two sides of the world. And the past year was pivotal in such that I had a lot of brands I was working with that wanted to get into crypto, and we've seen for the first time that crossing the chasm, but there was no right person or product that brings brands and crypto engineering in the right intersection and builds the right tools, knowing both sides of the world. So that's where I came in and Kalder came into life.
That makes a lot of sense. And how big do you think is the gap? Like when you're talking to brand and they hear about Web3 in the mainstream press or dabble a little bit in the kind of the rabbit hole, what understanding do they have, and what instinct do they come with, and what are the surprises they discover when they talk to you? What was that enlightenment moment look like?
Yeah, definitely. And as we have seen, a lot of brands are excited to learn more about NFTs and Web3, but with the last year's like bubble and trends, but yet we are still so early in the market that when a lot of brands come in to launch NFTs, they don't know what is the potential with blockchain technology. They think it's 10,000 derivations of JPEGs, but yet what blockchain is technology is the best for is creating direct bottom-up engagement with community and creating better data streams and many more. So what it best starts with is essentially breaking down the misconceptions and breaking down the terminology. So, and focusing on the problem. What we have seen that actually crypto projects don't do well is solving problems of brands, but rather shill marketing projects. So what we focus on when we work with brands and onboard them to our self-serve tools is that their existing marketing channels are actively deteriorating and existing tools are getting costly. D2C ads are not adding up. Third-party cookies are shutting down. There's so many paradigm shifts in marketing that we can solve with Web3 powered like loyalty tools. And that's what we index on, solving the real world engagement problems. And then that's how brands are like, wow, I really need this as a core marketing primitive, not one-off drops. And that's where we want to like shift the paradigm to, bringing Web3 Rails as a core marketing primitive to every brand's day-to-day engagement.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to note that when you talk to, let's call them Web2 marketer, is that the deterioration of the marketing stack in Web2 with the do not track initiative, with even the extraction that Facebook and Google take on top of the marketing spend. Most of the money is going to two companies and supporting their metaverse initiative and other alpha bets. And it's not working for brands. It really isn't. And it has really actively deteriorated. So it's not like a nice to have, because it's like, oh, my new apartment is not ready, but my old apartment is in underwater, right? People don't realize how dire the situation is. Are they looking for some refuge, or they don't really have the recognition that the ship is sinking yet? What is the sentiment?
Yeah, that is a great question. And like every brand we work with, especially bigger the size, more the urgency is asking us for two things. One, what is the next generation advocacy or community tooling? Two, what is the next generation data tooling? Because just like what you said, like Amazon ads, Google ads, every big company is now building even bigger walled gardens to own and not share the data of customers. And as data and access to this data gets more expensive and centralized, every brand knows that they need to bring the customer back to their website and own the engagement. So we see that like as the red flags and urgency is already there, especially the year about to close up, because 2023 will be pivotal in third-party cookies changes. And what we have seen is companies without first-party data are actually going to spend 20% more on marketing efforts to make up for loss of cookies. So with the new changes implemented, every brand will prioritize first-party engagement and data as their marketing initiative and put it as part of their budget.
Yeah, when musicians talk about NFT, they always talk about cutting out Spotify and that middleman. So this idea that, and I kind of want to understand a little bit about, your spin on the Web3 loyalty, brand loyalty solution stack. I think we understand what the problems is, but there's also a lot of interesting possibility space within the public data of transaction history, the user NFT as a type of signal of status and loyalty. Can you tell us a little bit about like what is the kind of solution bundle? If the problem is well known and the infomercial about like, don't you hate it when you cannot track your customer and give them the value they want, and giving all the value to a few big tech giants, what is the solution set that you believe is the building block for this new Web3 marketing solution?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we have seen after years of working with like brands and in the intersection of crypto is brands don't need one scope solution, but the full stack, like customer relationship management to engage and segment their customers. So how Kalder looks like today is that we provide the full white label service for brands to establish their tiered dynamic NFT memberships, launch their own brand native rewards, like think about Nike, Starbucks, like Adidas, and having their full native rewards. That looks like a full reward system, but is just ended up being powered by blockchain technology. So it's super seamless, but is using Web3 Rails. And lastly, create what we call contribute to earn experiences, where brands can set and gamify and tokenize any task or engagement that they want community to do or activate with. And what happens when you put these features on blockchain Rails is a couple things. One, you create a tiered product and experience access with dynamic NFT memberships, where where essentially NFTs become the gateway to these new brand worlds and communities, and you change customers into a community. And two, what loyalty has done wrong and never went well since 1990s is it has always been an index on repeated purchases. But with Kalder and loyalty is we have the full engagement and tokenization of data, where any engagement that brand wants you to do becomes a loyalty index, where as you earn more rewards by completing contribute to earn experiences, you lock these rewards to upgrade your membership or spend your rewards, and essentially be rewarded for your engagement and becoming a co-creator, influencer, and advocate. And with this tooling, what we see is the future of data and marketing, because in what we call with Brands 3.0, customers will not be only consumers to the product. They will be co-creators, influencers, and stakeholders. And Kalder provides that full infrastructure to create those loyalty indexes and identities and memberships to do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the brands have traditionally treat the loyalty program for passive consumers. So if you're not spending money, you're dead to me, basically, right?
Yes.
Whereas the real brand building for some of the direct-to-consumer D2C brand is that kind of excitement, but it's uncompensated. And yeah, you can put an affiliate code, but unless you're like one of the top influencers, those affiliate code doesn't add up too much. So essentially, it's goodwill. And this goodwill really is somewhat asymmetric. It's super important for an establishment of a new product category, a new product within a larger organization, but it's completely either uncompensated, but more importantly, unrecognized. So what do you see that this whole idea of dynamic NFT, like, NFT is pretty static. I own a Bored Ape, I don't have it. And, it's almost like I traded away my 1K status from United, which you can't really do, right? So there's some non-transferability, so bound as in United mileage. What is your sense of the tradability of NFT and this idea of earned long-term loyalty, so it's not as mercenary? How is it dynamic, and how is it not just like another collectible?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we think like you're essentially tapping into like what we think is the next hypothesis of where NFTs are going, where NFTs are merely like the infrastructure. So what we do with dynamic NFTs is essentially create a system where users can upgrade their NFTs, or as they earn in the ecosystem they upgrade the tier of their NFTs. And by the nature of their new loyalty status and index, their NFT changes visually too. We have seen like generative on-chain projects or dynamic NFT projects that have experimented with this idea, but we haven't seen a real world use case that dynamic NFTs are perfect for. And it is actually perfect for loyalty index and membership index. So we are essentially taking NFTs and membership to a next level, where the moment you're in, it's not a world where the moment you're in, you're done, but that you need to keep engaging and gamify the engagement such that you can upgrade your membership and open the worlds of different partners and creators through this world too.
Yeah, I certainly check my Marriott app. Do I still have gold?
Yes.
I haven't traveled as much since the pandemic, so I think they were extending some loyalty for like grace period. Now I probably will be losing them left, right, and center. And that's a dynamic thing. My membership is, a number stays with me, but the levels changes depends on whether I'm engaging in any given way. You mentioned that the whole upgrading and downgrading is something that's data driven. So on Web3, at least right now, before we talk about privacy technology, which is a separate issue altogether, most of the interaction data about people do on chain is public. How is that useful for marketers? Is that something that they understand? It's like, while they don't get access to the first party data like Amazon and Apple especially not, there's this public data. Do they see that as something that's a gold mine, or they haven't recognized the power of users' transaction and interest and participation being indexable?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And it is so interesting because it's the first thing you said. They didn't realize the gold mine yet. So when we tell brands that you can not only essentially track repeated purchases of your customers, but actually the impressions, where they check in with their NFT, where they sign in with their NFT, or what are the other wallets or creators they interact with. They just think it's not possible. And basically, we see a data revolution that is about to come here too. Blockchain data has not been semantic or readable for so long that we had this mine of data that was not usable by brands. So what Calder's one of the verticals do is also become the main data portal that is fully integrated to a marketer stack, but is also abstracting enough so that blockchain data just looks like a marketing data. So we turn NFT signings into actually impressions, and we think signing on like with your NFT and proving that you're signing will be the new era of impressions that we used to have in Web2, Instagram, and ads. And there's many more data metric primitives that blockchain technology will bring us, that we will see the future of as interactive partnerships and how it will harness the new layer of data and engagement that we think will build the next generation data and marketing companies.
Yeah, and I think, when we look at data, the big data movement and then in turn into like kind of data science has been looking at somewhat low resolution data around unmeaningful activity. And I think what's interesting about blockchain is that while there's less data, each time you interact, that's a meaningful data point. You didn't just mouse over something or scroll by something. Then there needs to be an intention. And what's been really great about Google is that they can say that every single time you click on a search engine, link or type in a keyword, it's a meaningful action, and that's why the real estate is so valuable. Do you see this idea that the customers' engagement will be mostly around marketing to people who are already with the brand? Let's say Nike has a program and using the on-chain data. But do you see Adidas knocking on the door and say, I can see what you guys are doing with Nike. The data is for all to see, and come and do some competitive offer, like a dry cleaner saying that I will honor my competitor's coupon and I will approach my competitive customer. Do you see that opportunity? Because we see those kind of what we call vampire attacks in DeFi, where existing values and wallet holder becomes an attack vector, in a good way, I would say, for growth of other competitive network. Do you see that dynamic?
Yeah, that's a great question. We think that there will be a lot of collaboration and acquisition strategies that will be bootstrapped through this data and engagement. And then there will be both sides of the coin. The most important part will be that let's say Nike and Gucci are about to partner. What they will be able to see is that who are my top customers that have both Nike and Gucci, and what is that intersection that should be guest listed to the new drop. And this was never possible before, because right now in Web2 loyalty, there's no way to essentially communicate two segmented databases and create cross utility rewards or cross intersection. And every day there's a streetwear drop on StockX or retailers, and then bots take over the products rather than top fans. But if there is a Supreme drop, I think the person who is doing the most YouTube videos about Supreme that may not have a Supreme product in itself, maybe he is just the most engaged but not the top purchaser, should be guest listed. So these type of data points will be all available and will be the next engagement and interoperable collaboration rails. And what we see for competition too, we hypothesize that in the 10 year realm, actually all brands will be collaborating because right now there's a non-consumption problem. Every brand chose to silo their data and customer, and by that they essentially are bearing the costs of acquiring new customers. But we do see a future where if we build the new Uniswap of loyalty rewards and engagement rails, then there will be a world Nike and Adidas will be collaborating too. It's but we need to build towards that step by step.
So for sure, and I think this idea that you mentioned the word segmentation. all the projects who are doing airdrops and figuring out who to include and exclude are essentially doing segmentation, correct?
Yeah.
They don't say it. They just think it's some blog post about how clever they are, but marketers do that all day long. Include that, exclude it, except this one. And they're doing segmentation with tools that are immature. And I sometimes feel like, you guys should just get these marketing cloud things and do your segmentation. But the results here is challenging, right? In the segmentation, you can do certain things, send some email, but here you have to create a natural program. You have to modify your token gating or your guest listing system, or you have to do a Merkle-based airdrop. So the delivery mechanism was Web3 well, but the actual computation and thinking, the analysis is very uniquely Web2. So there's just a tremendous opportunity to bring those two worlds together. What do you see is the challenge of aggregating the data that already exists about customer in Web2, like within their existing databases, email lists, as well as this interaction? Is the association, much like the brick and mortar online phase, where they want to associate those users together, is that important? Or do you think that the Web3 engagement is kind of independent of who goes to your store or who bought something on online site on Black Friday?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we think like there will be both types of personas. One that will build their new world identities in these membership portals, which is totally viable, because if they're engaging and my like name is like 0xDGD .eth, it is still a fact that I'm a loyal customer and I'm like keep purchasing or engaging or like contributing to this brand. And it just doesn't matter who I am, what is my gender, and what is my birth date. And this also shows how archaic our data collection today is. When we go to Shopify, the first thing they ask me is my name, birth date, and gender. But more importantly, what they should know is probably which music I like, which like a dress I want to buy from this shop, or what are the other creators and brands that I know is synergistic with the brand I'm purchasing, but I'm not telling the brand this data at this point, or which experience they should be presenting for me. So what we are seeing now is essentially, if we can, when we use contribute to earn experience as well, we are creating new layer loyalty and identity indexes. So if I'm keep pushing content for Nike's like Air Forces, or even like painting Air Forces in Brooklyn and then posting the pictures of it, and I'm racking up rewards, and they're like, let's say working with Supreme, and I'm also a top customer in Supreme, regardless who I am in the real world, I should be getting the early access, because right now there's so much data about my engagement and loyalty index. So what we are in short like bringing together here is a new layer like loyalty identity that is not necessarily dependent on who you are in like the real world.
Right. And it's really interesting, right? Because if you buy these, when you're engaging, you're earning these virtual currency for dollars on Nike. But eventually you may want to redeem it for an actual Air Force One and the limited edition one. What is the connection? Do you see the commerce of the actual redemption or the getting a discount because of a certain level to be settled through crypto, and then kind of like Unisocks, how you buy the socks token, and you can, if you want to, spend $7 and redeem the actual sock? That's a real ultimate flex, right, for a lot of people. Do you see this idea that the NFT sale in a platform like OpenSea or other competitive NFT is the point of sale for that transaction, and the whole real world supply chain of shipping and handling is just a fulfillment against that? Do you see that commerce moving on chain that way, where the substantive transaction of buying the product is on chain?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we think like at Kalder, we have a philosophy that like nothing that shouldn't be on chain should be forced to be on chain, because it's so costly and needless. And we see a lot of like people in the landscape trying to put like everything on chain, but we think the right like integrations and on ramps and off ramps are critical. So what this means in this case is like if we are living like Calder's full white labeled infrastructure is living under members.brand.com, and brand is using Shopify for their like shop experience, they're essentially using our NFT gated membership to launch an exclusive drop, and the full like payment is under like Kalder rewards or like crypto or fiat, but the full shipping and settlement is just like any commerce. And that we think our core value proposition is creating new engagement data and marketing rails, but it's and bring the full commerce integration and power commerce, but to not be new Shopify. So that we do see, like, we have built a lot of the integrations to make it work, and it should be fully integrated, but it does not need to be on chain.
Right, exactly. So you can look at it, if you got a free drop, it's like your NFT membership give you a one-time use 100% off coupon code kind of thing. So it's still at the end of the day fulfilled in a more traditional way, but there's a bridge on that, and you can certainly track that actually got redeemed.
Exactly.
Right? We at Cardstack we work on a lot of the underlying infrastructure. You mentioned that you have worked in the OpenSea with the marketplace thing, and before that worked on essentially the layer 1, layer 2 type of crypto infrastructure. What do you think is the missing piece of technology in the crypto stack that still requires polishing? I have a thought that we are not quite in the iPhone era of crypto yet. We're kind of in the Blackberry era. Like most of the things there, you got some sort of touchscreen, you got some sort of keyboard, but it's not as smooth and it's not really doing that. So what do you think is going to bring us from the BlackBerry era to iPhone era at the platform layer, like one level below the app and these kind of toolkit for marketer that you wish, in your experience, having worked on those tools and work with people who are working on those tools, that you wish would happen, that would make your job building this marketing stack much easier?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is not on the layer 1 level, but like we should definitely go into that. But the first and the most core pain we see day to day as a white labeled marketing and loyalty solution is not being able to go fully mobile. Right now, what we have seen is with, of course, preventions from Apple and the new experiences, we have found our ways around many times to provide seamless experiences for our customers. Because how Kalder is different from a lot of Web3 products is our product is not for Web3. Our market is the $250 billion spend in loyalty and CRM, and we want to take it all. But if we want to take it all, we need to also take the Web2 pie of this. And what this means is we need to be the most seamless product, both Web 2 and Web 3. And it is so hard, just like you said, it's like BlackBerry era of Web 3 and competing with the Apple era of Web 2. So when we are putting, when we are putting the Apple wallets or our memberships in responsive web apps instead of mobile apps, what happens is we do have a friction in our technology that is not dependent on Kalder that we need to hack around with. And that is something we know with a good design or API infrastructure we can figure out, but that going mobile will help cross the chasm in the next years, especially for a tool like Kalder, and that will be very critical.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see how even the best mobile wallet, Web3 wallet that has Wallet Connect, are speaking the language of a crypto user who are going to be buying and selling tokens and swapping. Those verbs that are in there are not everyday verbs. People are not day traders. And making graphs and charts is actually getting in the way. And this hasn't been an experience that can be either used as a companion app or a white label, or a kind of a platform. There's no WeChat of a global wallet. I mean, people thought that Telegram will build one, and they may still end up doing so. But until there's some more innovation around that, at Cardstack, we have a React Native team focusing on figuring out what is the right layer of abstraction. When are we adapting into the mobile ecosystem and Google and Apple, in-app purchase and otherwise, and when are we connecting to the crypto ecosystem, whether that's multi-signature account abstraction or these kind of concept, right? Gasless transaction would be very nice for things that you want to do for the first time without necessarily having ETH, or worse yet, having Matic. It's not easy to get a layer 2 gas token in the wallet. I have trouble doing it. So those are some of the things we're working on, but I absolutely agree that those are the things that's going to be a community effort. And I love what Vitalik's talking about around, thinking about social recovery, thinking about account abstraction as a way to make it easier for people to, without knowing it, dealing with a programmable wallet, things like that actually is speaking all the most advanced language of Web3, but it's as easy to use as what you would expect, a sponsored transaction, gasless transaction.
Exactly. And gasless transaction is one that is top of mind for us too, because it's very unintuitive for a Web2 customer to come to a membership and loyalty program and pay to submit their proof
Right.
of like
Yes. Yes.
engagement.
Yeah.
So they're like, why am I paying to my brand in their perspective, even though it's not to the brand, to submit a proof that I have like attended this event or
Yes.
posted this content. So there's also like new like kind of technical like paradigm shifts that happen in Web3 that is not native in Web2, that will take a lot of terminology and like kind of crossing the chasm as well. And to what you said, like Web3 has a branding problem. Like all the tools, all the jargon is designed for Web3 natives, and that's it's not designed for like Web2 like integrations and infrastructure to be adopted, and that's why it feels intimidating to jump in.
Yeah, I think words like wallet, gas, account, network layer 2, none of them are kind of none of them are leading to conversion and engagement. They're all kind of friction points around that. So there's a lot to do, both in terms of the actual substance of it, but also how we describe it. And obviously, we can abstract it all away. But one of the things we've learned is that, centralized exchanges abstract it all away, but they also take it all away because the abstraction is not actually real. Your deposit is figment of your imagination, right? So it's important for us to actually do the decentralization and do that type of like, user ownership, brand ownership, yet providing that thing is a really tricky thing to do. It's very easy to cheat both ways, right? Like totally centralized, just say crypto, and totally unusable. So we have to find those balances.
Yes.
Obviously you're early on in the project, in your journey in kind of scaling up the organization and you're taking your brand learning. What do you think is the most kind of like likely moment where your tool set get that first like a consumer adoption moment, a brand success? Can you tell me what that would look like? Like basically, what should I look out for on Twitter or whatever? But it's like, oh, that finally happened.
Yes.
She told me and prophesied that this will happen one day. What does that event look like?
Yes, I think ideally we expect this event to be near in like especially in the new year. So we have done a lot of pilots with brands and publications on how we can engage their community, but it has been private or like whitelisted. But what is up and coming now is one of our biggest brand partnerships that will be just like built and executed like any marketing software, where we will be fully integrated and taking over a streetwear brand's loyalty program and fully deploy it on Kalder and Web3 Rails. What this means is that we will ideally have thousands of loyal customers to this brand, engaging, creating content, attending events, making repeated purchases, and raving about their brand all across this social network channels, and coming back to a brand's own website to engage with the community, with their own chat experiences and more. So you can say we made it in the next months when we execute this and bring more brands to create that interoperability too. Right now, we serve our tools on like waitlist onboarding basis where brands self-serve, but we work closely with them.
Right.
So in the next 6 months, as we are choosing our work closely and choose our next 10 brand partners, our goal is to then open source and publicize our tools in the next 6 months so that anyone from a creator to an NFT community to a brand can use it.
That's really, I think, amazing, because at the end of the day, the brands that we will respect in 2024 is likely one person somewhere doing something. We think of Mr. Beast as a brand today, but 3 years ago he is just a dude, right? And it happens all the time. This whole iteration is way fast. And so I think anytime, and I think Web3 tools can be permissive, not permissionless, as in people can really start using the tools for whatever they think of. Which the creators sometimes don't even imagine that would be used that way. I'm sure the OpenSea people didn't really completely see all the different ways NFTs are being listed. So I'm sure you will see a lot of creative uses of this loyalty solution to things that you don't think of as brands. Maybe individual is obvious. Maybe ideas can become brands. Who knows?
I love what you said there, because I think that's like the infrastructure and foundation we want to create. What Web2 marketing tools done wrong is build walled gardens for their tools as well. Like right now, getting even onboarded to Salesforce, the hassle, and nobody likes it.
Yeah.
What we want Kalder to be is the main like creative infrastructure, engagement infrastructure for everything, where your morning coffee can build their community portal too, but also your favorite musician or
Yes.
you yourself or your like podcast can build the community around them and engage their customers directly too. Because the core problem here is not having a bi-directional engagement between community and brand or like the founder itself. And this is universal across many brands. So and like building towards a headless brands and building the infrastructure for that is like the full like goal of Kalder, and that people should get creative with it.
Yes, and I think the composability of Web3 and crypto does mean that, different tools will be used for different people, within a boundary, within one project or one protocol, and then the mix and matching of it. And, I heard about people thinking about using NFT as a way to deal with paid membership. So that could be interesting, not just these kind of like earned status, but how different are they really, right? Like, wouldn't you be able to buy a membership of something? Certainly some airlines sell the membership, maybe not directly, but by way of credit card companies. If you get this credit card, then you get this membership. So this is really interesting. Like, do you earn it or do you buy it? And is that the same? So those are two different types of NFT or different commercial transaction. And on chain, that's way easy to compose. But when you're talking about the back end system of these loyalty program, and I was involved in a strategy project to talk about airline miles and status, those systems are really archaic and they don't really integrate. So limits what they can do.
Yeah, it is so true. Like what we don't see, like in the front end or like in the consumer experiences, how much financial modeling or segmentation these loyalty programs take, and in spite of that much work, how they don't work. Because because right now loyalty is designed for customers to not redeem their points, and thus it's like a mechanism design that went all wrong. So what we are doing essentially here is redesigning what it means to be loyal and earn and upgrade from first principles, and then redesign and redefine what loyalty programs mean. And right now, when we think about loyalty programs, it's kind of a distaste left in us. It's a 10% off, or my gold points that I will never be able to take anywhere else, or my status that doesn't take anywhere else. But if we can turn these siloed rewards and status into a unified engagement and index, and what we have seen with our pilots is, when done right, it creates more than 70% of customer engagement to a point where when loyalty works, engagement works. So we're trying to build that association.
Absolutely. And I think this is one thing that the brand people has went from completely focusing on getting the brand out there, and then got really into the whole performance base with the early, Google and then Facebook kind of repeating a cycle. And now they felt kind of betrayed by the performance model because it actually doesn't perform very well if you look at the ROI. And they're now looking at like, how do I take my data expertise and rethinking this kind of community? So when you say community, is really great because it's just not customers and data points and leads, right? It's building that. And I think in early Web3 community, crypto community, for the time where everybody's pretty happy with each other and their wallets, it really feels very rich and close. And if brand can cultivate those community, I think it makes it much easier to compete in a world where Amazon try to inject themselves in between everything and say, you got to buy an ad to show up. It's like, but they're searching for my product names, right? But this is my search engine, right? Like that's happening, and I'm sure it's very frustrating. And I see why they're seeking community, and hopefully Web3 provide that additional rail to make those community meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. And what we are seeing as a paradigm shift also for brands is like they are even stop calling their customers, but community. Like it's not customer management, but community management. So these words will be ingrained to our language even more. And right now, especially we try to work with brands that are community first, even like product second to a point, because what we've seen is if you build the right community, product sells in itself anyways. So
Right.
once the playbook of this new generation marketing and loyalty is written, we will
Yes.
like basically put the D2C playbook off the shelf to the shelves and then start using the new community driven marketing and engagement tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a saying about how there used to be a point where capital allows you to create audience. And now it's the reverse is true. Audience, or in this case, community, actually drives capital. Whoever have an audience, capital will chase after them. You have a community, engaged community, you can go ahead and order $1 million worth of product tomorrow. Someone will give you that money, right? And I think it's not entirely clear yet that that's happening. But hopefully, I'm excited about what you guys are working on, but also intersecting with other people about like financing the first product using these kind of future revenue as a way to kind of borrow against that thing. You can maybe have people make physical product that way, and that type of like inventory financing, the risk taking hasn't necessarily happened in a fluid way, or more importantly in an accessible way, of which the people who build in the community that matters have access to. Only suits have access to, or people have vests, right? They have the Patagonia vest nowadays, as not suits, vests. But I would love to see Web3 democratize both the building of a community and building engagement, but also the financing of these to become actual big brands that has global supply chain. That would be beautiful.
Yeah, that's like great to like talk about, because like we also think the next generation of brands will be the ones like essentially are the blue chip of brands that will lead what it is like to build, engage. And we are seeing this already. I think streetwear is a great example where the cult-like following of streetwear is the proposition to the customers. It's not the sneakers. It's not like the product drops, but even the drop culture, which is so similar to Web3, is essentially the main value proposition to associate with who you want to be and who you like to be. And I don't think we have the tech yet to connect these people. And by doing this, we will unlock the new, like what we call brands 3.0, brands who are like taking their customers as co-creators and engagement. And the pain has never been more real. Like you said, when we look at engagement, what we see at Kalder is the marketing playbook is so saturated and leading to such a low engagement that around 50% of consumers report they will switch to a brand, product, or any other retailer when faced with other offers or better customer experience. So customers are craving this connection, emotional, communal connection, but they are not getting it.
Yes, and the commoditization that comes with the platform setting in the way certainly dilutes a little bit. But I do believe that nobody thinks of themselves as a Google loyalist. Even those, like I don't trust the search result. People even on social media say, well, I use TikTok to find things I might like. Do I trust them? Not at all, right? So I think the new generation is definitely clear about the utility and the exchange, but they trust the community. They trust this streetwear brand. They trust the people online with them waiting for the next drop in the physical store in Soho, right? And I think there's something really, really deep there that is both intrinsically human. And I think one thing about Web3 design, or even crypto, is that a lot of what determines what happens is human nature, and rediscovering that again, right? Tulip Mania, it's a human event, and we have it again. But then again, the growth of a new community, online community, is also human nature, and we're seeing that again. So it will be really interesting to see when the primitives exist and the iPhone era of Web3 competing, just as well, maybe better than the iPhone era of Web2 happens. It will be lovely to see what new form emerge, and more importantly, what old form reemerge and surprise us again about the beauty of the human relationships.
Yeah, I love that, because I think what we're doing at Kalder is not loyalty marketing, all these words. We are building the infrastructure for brands to build communities and engage with each other. And it's not in an archaic marketing way, because brands are creators, people we trust, or individuals, or like people we want to engage with and have so much emotions around, but have never been able to build that connection with, because it was not scalable or right thing to do so. If we come to a point where Kalder is both for brands and community, is the way people connect with each other, and be creative with, then we have done our job.
Absolutely.
And we're essentially betting on a behavior change here. The moment we create that bidirectional engagement, then we create that new product category of what it is to build loyalty.
And when we think about Web3 as a field, it's like, oh, what is it all about? It's just numbers going up, going down. But I think we think about this as a people say coordination in an abstract way, but human coordination and human communication, that's always going to work. I mean, the internet's about that. Social media is that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work until it does, and then it defines an era. And I'm in a way bullish on people finding connection with each other through the web, and whether we add a 3 to the web or 2 to the web, it's just a way to actually make it even more convenient and deeper in that way. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, even to a point where like how we meet with people on Twitter and become Twitter friends show how we like surpass tech to still find connections.
Absolutely.
And think about the world. We build the right tech for right community engagement and trust. Then we build the right human coordination. And I think we are getting there, and we are definitely in the Blackberry era. But I think with this market, it's a great time to build towards that like Apple era, both for infrastructure level and essentially like use cases level.
Absolutely. Well, this is really, really awesome to have a conversation about things that I'm sure not getting covered a lot in the Web3 space, because I think a lot of Web3 is very insular looking. But if you look at the tool set that we can offer to people and the hunger there is from the customer to become community members and brands to become more like, in a way connected, disintermediate again with the customer, there's just a huge demand for it. And, the demand for Web3 is going to come from the demand for the use case. And a second side effect is all the other stuff that we talk about, right? Numbers and stuff like that. So thank you very much for your time today. Are there anything else you want to kind of tell our audience about what's about to happen, or teasers and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So we are still finalizing our like brands that we are working with. If you're a brand or a creator that like this like excites you, would love to chat, and Kalder.xyz or Kalder.app is a great place to reach out to us and our socials, Kalder World. But at the same time, if as a consumer creator, whoever you are, this ideas excite you, just sign up or join the wait list. And we have many brand public launches coming in the new year that we will co-market with our brands. We are working with retailers, streetwear brands, DJs, like influencers, so many like, or like NFT communities, like podcasts. There will be so many like loyalty programs launched on Kalder in the next year that you can find something to connect with, but more importantly, be part of this like future of engagement. So Kalder's XYZ and our socials are a great way to follow that and participate. Our NFT memberships for these brands will be live very soon in the new year.
It's so exciting because when people see these brands come in and they're not going to immediately think crypto or God forbid FTX. So they're going to think, oh, really interesting tech or very interesting new things to do in our digital lives and the intersection on that. And that's really where it becomes the ramp of going into Web3 becomes non-existent. It's just, I call it the land of the Web3. It's just the web extended. It's just a greater web area covered by Web3 with a new technology to connect, like a bridge behind me. It just extends the landscape of the web to something that wasn't addressable before. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I had a great experience with talking about these, topics that I believe are going to be the unlocking of not only the excitement around Web3, but more importantly, the real spend, right? Like real revenues, brands spending money instead of on Facebook, on Web3. And that is the kind of fuel. I have a big belief that if we focus on consumption and revenue and not speculation and kind of like, like leverage, we will actually make for a much more fulfilling and satisfying and more sustainable economy. So any use case that brings money from one place that's being spent to money spent on Web3 in this land, would be healthy for our industry growth and thrive.
Yeah, totally agree. And it was great to chat with you, Chris, too. I think it's very special to dig deeper into the next 4 to 10, like 5 years of crypto and really see what's the future rather than focusing on like the shilling or like the
Yeah.
ups and downs. I think what will always stay is the true proposition of like blockchain technology, ownership economy, and
Yes.
bringing ownership and engagement primitives to the world of consumers and brands. And that's what we're hyper focused on. And it was super great to chat on that.
Absolutely. And always thanks our community for your time and attention. We do this every 2 weeks to talk to founders who are actually building use cases around Web3 and using the technology that we all love in a way that other people outside of our field would love. They may not love NFT, but they're going to love being recognized for who they are, what they've done, and what they will continue to do. And that type of human connection and reward and recognition is what we strive for. And hopefully that becomes a thing that a billion people will feel the same way they open a wallet to check in their status on Kalder. So thank you so much. And until next time,